NXT starts off with Tony D'Angelo, starts off with him cutting a promo. He ends up cutting, the promo you typically cut after you win a championship. Mentions, the path it took to get to winning the NXT championship. Mentions being a Grand Slam champion in NXT. Then Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and Ethan Page all come out, state their case of why they should deserve another chance at the NXT Championship. Joe Hendry ends up mentioning that the fact that it was a fatal four-way, that would Tony D'Angelo be able to beat him in a one-on-one. You got Ethan making his case, saying that he pinned Joe Hendry and that it should have been a one-on-one match between him and Joe. Then you got Ricky ended up saying that he ended up blaming Ethan Page for why he lost the NXT Championship. We end up getting a moment where Darkseid comes out. They end up doing their thing, cut the lights off, they attack. You get security. You even getting other NXT wrestlers from the locker room. They end up trying to stop the brawl. This brawl was a bit long. Like, it lasted like 4 to 5 minutes. I could be wrong, but that's how it felt. It lasted a little bit too long for my liking. This should have been like a minute and a half brawl, but this lasted a bit too long. It got to a point where it stopped being cool. It just became a bit cringe at times because some of the punches weren't really looking that good. It was looking a little too fake, even though we know it's scripted, but you still got to keep the allure. And after a certain point, it just started to look a bit cringe after a certain point. But nonetheless, afterwards, we end up getting a segment. Mr. Stone, he has all four of them. They're frustrated. He ends up saying, look, we're just going to make this a 8-man tag match between Joe, Ricky, Tony, and Ethan Page versus Darkseid. The match ended up happening early in the show. It was a solid tag match, solid 8-man tag match. Towards the end of the match, you end up getting Miles Bourne interfering in the match, getting rid of Dion. He ends up attacking Dion due to what happened at Stand and Deliver, with Dion attacking him. Continuing that story, we'll see eventually how that eventually plays out. And then we end up getting towards the end where Tony D'Angelo was getting the upper hand. He's finna go for like his spine buster, I think. Or, well, not a spine buster. He was finna go for like his finisher. He does that little slam. I don't know what that slam is called. But you end up getting Ethan Page tagging himself in. And then he attacks Tony D'Angelo, which I thought was funny because he didn't have to attack him. He attacks him and then steals the pin, which I thought was funny. I thought this was great. I like what they did here. I like the involvement of Darkseid, and I like the involvement of all the guys who had a match at Stand and Deliver in the NXT Championship match, all teaming up, having to work together, which I thought was good. I love Ethan Page in this match because him attacking Tony D'Angelo when he didn't have to do that was funny, because he just did that for the love of the game, because he already tagged himself in. He didn't need to attack him. He just did that for whatever reason. But then Tony D'Angelo later in the show ended up, going to Mr. Stone, asking for a title match against Ethan Page. And next week we're gonna get that title match. So Ethan Page is Tony D'Angelo's first title defense at NXT Revenge, is what they're calling it, which I'm going to enjoy because I think that should be a really good match. Good first title defense. I like what they're doing here. And I like the idea of putting them still all four of them in the main title scene, because we need all four of them in the main title scene. We need all four of them in the main title scene. Because right now, the men's division, even though I'm a little bit higher on the men's division than most people, it's still lacking main eventers in terms of who's next after these four. So it's a good thing that these four are still in the title contention, because I was fearing that maybe one of them may get called up, or they may end up just not, keeping them in the title picture. But good thing they're keeping them in the title picture. But this is the correct call, and I'm very interested to see how that match plays out. Tony D'Angelo should be retaining, but the match itself should be great, and I could easily see Ricky Saints possibly interfering in the match, costing Ethan Page, or it could be some miscommunication continuing that storyline between Ethan and Ricky's friendship. So very excited to see how that match plays out. Afterwards, we end up getting Ruca versus Izzy Dame in a singles match. This was a really good match. We end up getting Zaria ends up attacking Ruca, ends up spearing her, and then Izzy Dame was able to take advantage and pick up the victory. So we're going to continue this feud, and I don't know how to feel about this. It is confirmed that next week at NXT Revenge that it's going to be a last woman standing match, which I'm also very concerned, because I'm assuming this has to be the last match, because NXT does this thing where they like doing like 2-match feuds for whatever reason, because typically, majority of the time, you would assume that it would be 3 matches to end the feud. But NXT does this thing where they only do 2 matches. I don't know why that is, but they do that a lot. They've done it with Trick and Mello. They do it a lot with Jada Parker. Every Jada Parker feud is always a 2-match feud where she wins 50-50. So I'm assuming they're going to do the same here. My only fear is, I'm a bit confused on what they're going to do here, because, again, I thought Zaria should have won at Stand and Deliver. I think she should win this match, but again, just like my Stand and Deliver prediction, I wasn't confident in that pick, and I'm not confident now. I'm going to assume Zaria will win this match, but I'm not confident because I think So Ruca is staying in NXT for a bit. I think eventually she's going to get the Javon Evans run that we all thought that Javon Evans was going to get. I think she's going to eventually get that run with the NXT Championship. I could be wrong. I hope Zaria wins, but I'm just not confident. I'm just not. It's So Ruca at the end of the day. So Ruca is one of the most beloved baby faces in the NXT. She's arguably the most loved woman on that roster for the most part. And I just have a hard time believing that Shawn Michaels is gonna book her to lose. Even though this could be an environment where she loses because you could technically cheat without cheating because it's a last woman standing match. I'm excited for the match nonetheless, but I fear for Zaria losing this match though. But we'll see how this plays out. We end up getting a triple threat match between Keanu Carver, Josh Briggs, and Jasper Troy. This was a okay match. This match did not hit the way I thought it was gonna go, especially because the first like 10, this match went on a bit too long, and plus like the first 10 minutes of this match was kind of rough to watch. This match was fine for what it was. The story here was basically who is the biggest, baddest big man in NXT. Keanu Carver does end up picking up the victory, which I do think is the right choice. This is getting a lot of criticism, mainly because a lot of people are saying that they don't see the hype between the three guys, that the three guys aren't that good. Look, I do understand the criticism. Me personally, yes, these wrestlers have flaws. I'm not as critical on these guys, mainly Keanu and Jasper, mainly because they're new. They have limited experience. Me personally, I don't like overly criticizing, if that makes sense. I typically don't over criticize new talent when they're just arriving on the NXT roster. It's different with people like Lola and So Ruca because they have the experience of being in NXT for a while. When you got guys like Jasper Troy and Keanu who have very limited wrestling experience in everything from in-ring promos and all that, I'm not going to be overly harsh on them because I expect them to be bad in certain areas. I expect them. It's learning pains, okay? It is. So I understand it, but I'm not as harsh on it because, again, I expect a learning curve. You got to put them on TV for them to eventually get better. Trick Williams wasn't always the Trick Williams we love now. He had a learning curve. He was not always good. He had his moments where he was bad when he first got there. Same with guys like Mello. Like, there's a learning curve. So I'm not as harsh on this. Now one thing I do want to mention, can we please stop comparing Jasper Troy and Keanu Carver to Ova Femi? Stop doing that. You're only comparing them because they're black. That's really it. I guarantee you if these guys were white, you would not compare them to Ova. You would compare them to Brock Lesnar. Stop doing that. I get it. They're in the same archetype as Ova. They're not the same characters. They're nothing alike. Keanu Carver's gimmick is him being a young YN crash out. That's his gimmick. Ova Femi is not a young YN crash out. He's not. That's not. Stop comparing them. I get why you compare them, but they're not the same. They're nothing alike from a character standpoint. Archetype wise, in terms of build and how you would book them, sure, but character wise, we got to stop saying they're the same. No, they're not. They're completely different. Nonetheless, curious to see what they do next with Keanu because, again, I don't know because you're not going to put him in the main event scene, but they also tease something with Tony D'Angelo, so I don't know what they're going to do there. So very curious to see what they do, but overall, this match wasn't good. But it's a learning curve. I think eventually these guys will all get better. Josh Briggs was fine, but Keanu, Jasper Troy, I think eventually they'll all eventually get better to get to where they need to be. But overall, curious to see what happens next for these guys. We end up getting a mixed tag team match between Teddy Paxley, Shallow Hill versus Jackson Drake and Blake Monroe. This was a really good match. Really enjoyed this match. You end up getting Blake Monroe still wants to go after the North American Women's Championship. I really love the segment between Vanity Project and Blake Monroe. This pairing is fucking amazing. It makes perfect sense with their gimmicks with them both being super self-absorbed, but it works. It's similar to what they did with Ethan Page and Chelsea Green. Like, it's two characters who are so self-absorbed, but they work together. I love the pairing between these two. They end up giving her a replica belt of the Women's North American Championship and a custom design, which was very awesome. I love the custom design. You have one side that is like the glamour that's all pink and like Barbie-like, and the other side is like her hell side, which is more dark black and red. It's perfect. I would love that to be an actual design if she was ever to become Women's North American champion again. But nonetheless, this was a good match. We end up getting some shenanigans, of course. But for the most part, they won the match cleanly. The heel team did win the match cleanly. You end up getting a moment where Tana Paxley takes out Jackson Drake, but this allowed Blake Monroe to take advantage, and she ends up picking up the victory. So they're going to eventually have their rematch. I'm assuming it's not going to happen next week, but I'm assuming eventually they will have their rematch. Curious to see who wins that match because I'm curious to see if they're going to pull a JC Jane again where JC gets a rematch and beats Tatum Paxley, or they're going to have Tatum Paxley retain this time. Curious to see how that plays out because I could see it going either way. But nonetheless, I am loving this tandem with Vanity Project and Blake Morrow. It's perfect. And I'm also starting to like Shiloh Hill. I'm not the biggest fan of Shiloh Hill. I'm still not. But I do like the pairing between him and Tatum Paxley. They work very well together because they're both these over-the-top, like, quirky type characters. It works very well. I'm still not the biggest fan of him as a singles guy, but he is growing on me a bit, mainly due to the pairing with Tatum Paxley. So I am very interested in this whole storyline. We do end up getting the main event. We end up getting Lullaby. She ends up cutting her babyface promo of her winning the NXT Women's Championship. JC Jane, Fatal Influence, eventually comes out, interrupts her. JC Jane ends up talking her stuff, and basically she wants another shot at the NXT Women's Championship. Mr. Stone makes it official for next week at NXT Revenge. Then you end up getting Fatal Influence attacking Lola Vice, but Lola Vice end up taking them all out like she's Rhea Ripley. Now, typically, I don't like when wrestlers be able to take out an entire faction, but in this situation, I don't mind it because, for one, I think this is just to put over Lola Vice to make her feel strong and make her feel dominant, to make JC Jane put her over, even though she already did that stand and deliver, but that was in a triple threat match. Now leading into a singles match, JC Jane could do, the traditional way how you put someone over in a one-on-one match. And two, I'm assuming JC Jane and Fatal Influence will eventually get called up to the main roster sometime after WrestleMania, so I don't mind it in this scenario. Typically, I don't like it when no wrestler takes out an entire faction because I just think that's ridiculous. But in this situation, I don't mind it because, again, I think the whole purpose of this is for JC Jane to put over Lola Vice and then eventually move on to the main roster, so I don't mind it. Very excited for that match. Lola Vice should be retaining. We should be getting a run with Lola Vice. I don't know how long her run is going to last, especially depending on if they want Ruca to win that championship or if they want Kendall Gray to win that championship with the way they hype her up. So we don't know how long she's going to hold it, but I am very excited for a Lola Vice NXT Women's Championship reign. Now, I do want to mention the upcoming show, NXT Revenge. They're 2-week shows where they're 2-week like mini PLEs, similar to how they did Gold Rush, I think last year or earlier this year, how they did Halloween Havoc and what else? Spring Break-In they did in like 2023. So I love these shows because these shows are like basically mini PLEs while still telling a story, which I do enjoy. Next week, we got Tony D versus Ethan Page NXT Championship match. That match should be very exciting. You got Kalani Jordan versus Jada Parker. That match should be very interesting, especially because that is the second match. Jada Parker won the first match, so based off Jada Parker's history, she's probably going to lose the second match because for whatever reason, she always do 50-50 booking. I don't know what it is with Shawn Michaels and Jada Parker. It's always 50-50 booking with her, so I'm hoping Jada wins because I think she should be winning that feud, but with with Shawn Michaels booking, she's probably going to lose next week. After that, you got Lola Vice versus JC Jane Women's NXT Championship match. And then we got Ruca, Zaria, last woman standing match. And then the main thing I do want to talk about is Kelly Armstrong. She will be making her first NXT appearance. Well, this isn't her first NXT appearance because she made an appearance before and actually had matches in NXT. But they're counting it as a debut, even though she technically already debuted. But I'm actually excited for this because I like Kelly Armstrong. She has a perfect look. She's good in ring from what I have been seeing. And I don't know her mic skills, but based off her vignette segments, she is still a bit green, but I expect that for someone coming from Evolve. But based off how she looks and based off what I've seen so far in the ring, I have a good feeling that I'm going to like her a lot. She has the look down pat of what I typically would like in my wrestlers in general. And I just like what I see so far, and I'm very high on her personally, and I'm very excited to see what they do with her. Hopefully, they book her a lot better than what they did before, because I still remember when they had her face Jordan Grace and had her lose. I think twice they had her lost to Jordan Grace, if I'm not mistaken, and that was still confusing because they didn't do nothing with Jordan Grace. So I hope that we don't get any confusing booking there, but I don't think they're going to book her poorly. I think she'll be fine, especially because when women like JC Jane, Ruca, then eventually Lola Vice get called up, the women who are going to carry that division for the most part are going to be the Kendall Gray and Kelly Armstrong. So I'm very excited to see what they do with Kelly Armstrong. I'm very curious to see how they book her. Would it be a very slow rise or would they just boost her to the moon eventually going out the championship? So very excited with what they do with her. Overall show, I thought it was a really good show. Especially can't wait for next week's show. But you guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so I don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.